Chat, friends, comrades, I require a Grinch check. So, as many of you may have heard, and the leaks may already have forewarned you of a day in advance, Paradox has announced a new grand strategy game, that being Afterworld right over here, and I'm not really excited, which I feel like I should be, which is why exactly I'm going to ask you how you feel about this now. Well, ergo, the Grinch check. So, Afterworlds is a upcoming grand strategy game with a couple of little different things. So, one of the things the red flags immediately raised was that they mentioned that this would be their most approachable grand strategy game ever, whilst not sacrificing complexity. Which I mean, if you can pull it off, go ahead, but I somehow doubt it. And it looks very much so like your archetypical post-apocalyptic Fallout-style setting. You've got the ancients, Brotherhood of Steel, with superior military technology. You've got tribes, of course. You've got the Vaulters, which I think, what do they call them, the Vaulters? Something equivalent to that, coming out of the ground and underground vaults. You have tribes on the surface, religious cults, and so on. And you've even got Les Rumaboos as well here. I think, where was the Rumaboos? Ah yes, here we go, the Rumaboos, as we are given this man right here, with, what is that on his, E pluribus solum mane? E pluribus solum mane, from many become one, or something in roughly that direction, anyways, which I presume is a legally distinct version of the slogan of the United States. E pluribus manum manet? Anyways, you get the general drift. Remans. So we are already going very, very, very Fallout with this, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing either, mind you, but one of my fears is that the post-apocalyptic setting kind of remains just a post-apocalyptic setting. This is something that Bethesda's Fallout has struggled with for a very, very long time now. And indeed, it wasn't intended to be that way originally. The opening idea of Fallout was the rebuilding of civilization. It was humanity rising from the ashes and asking the question, what will a new civilization look like? If we assume, via the Hegelian dialectic, that our civilization has failed, what will the next successful civilization look like after having absorbed the errors of our own? That was the story of Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, where the world very much so grew more civilized with the creation of Vault City, for example, and the discovery that the surface world was far from abandoned and scorched. In fact, it was already beginning to rebuild its own versions of civilization. Then Bethesda bought it and went, well, that doesn't really sell anything, so we're just going to nuke everything again, resetting civilization back to just post-apocalypse again, which sort of kind of defeats the purpose, really. Now, there's a bunch of things here. Man is meat, this is largely correct. Union of strangers, restored shelter, back to sleep, with destinies. I wonder if this has something to do with the origins as well, as they mentioned origins in the developer diary here. We also got Shelterborn and Belief, where I don't love the idea of origins either, and I feel like I'm being such a negative Nancy here, but origins means that you begin as this thing, and then you grow outward from it, right? Establishing a different civilization. Now, what I would kind of like is for this to not be origins, but rather to be more faction specific, because origin indicates to me that this is where you begin and then you grow beyond it, and it becomes in essence just like a flavor thing at the end of the game. Whereas I would kind of like more of a storytelling aspect to it. You start in North America, again, more Fallout, and the combat system is a bit intriguing. So I I'm kind of thinking this might be either a token-based system, where, you know, we have got your units, you put them in the battle, and then you'll click, attack, but you see, this unit is shooting at this unit, whilst this unit is shooting at this unit. So this could, of course, simply just be graphics, right? So that unit attacked that unit previously, and so now they're shooting at each other so as to make the map feel more lively. Very possible. Or it could be an automated combat system, which, again, if the idea of this game, as they mention, excuse me, was to make it more easily approachable, in fact, the most easily approachable grand strategy game ever, the combat is one of those things that that Paradox has been very eager to sacrifice recently. In particular with Victoria 3, for example. I still fucking hate that combat system. It's not even a combat system. It's barely bars moving anymore, but oh well, details. As you can also see, some units have been knocked out here. And battle groups and enemy battle groups. You know, let's not judge the book entirely by its cover. And I do like the UI. Okay, a point of niceties here, so this doesn't come across as purely bellyaching. Again, this is very much so a Grinch check, so please do tell me. But I love the UI. So the UI, and this is the kind of easy to get into thing that I do actually very much so enjoy. The UI seems immediately legible. Like, this is obviously meat, this is obviously woods, this is, I'm presuming, okay, that's a little bit harder, but some sort of rare resource, right? Cattle, you see trade routes, you see the areas, you see populations, etc. This is a very clean map, and yet also with a good amount of little flourishes, like the people, Riley, Chairman Ranger, Miles, Jack, Colton, leaders. That's pretty neat. I like that. It's a very nice interface. The Shelterborn, this too looks very nice and clean. I can already begin to understand what's going on here, right? This is the food, this is how much food you're using of each resource. There are different types of foods, which will undoubtedly give various benefits to happiness and productivity and so on, crafting tools. Excellent interface design, and this is something that Paradox have been getting better at, whilst also kind of pulling away from. So one of the things they've been doing recently is kind of beginning to reintroduce army generals to Hearts of Iron 4, which I hated that they removed them in 3, because, oh, it's too much micromanagement. No, it's not. You do it basically once before every major war, where you go into your army and you set it up properly. You level up leaders, whereas in 4, you don't level up leaders at all. They remain pretty much the same guys throughout the entire fucking war, and then occasionally you open the tab and click one button like, oh, you've learned how to be a desert fox now. Oh, very good, very good. And now, you can also see lots of connections. So in other words, to gain trees, you're going to need the ability to connect to the trees, and then you pull them in to the city here, territory stockpile. So I'm presuming, like, again, wood, trees, etc., all of these are connected, pulled in towards the central point. And then maybe you could even interfere with that, like sending army units in to sit on enemy supply lines to disrupt production. I'm liking this. This looks actually rather neat, in my opinion. You have the usual little decisions and so on, hidden holdouts and events, and I do hope they lean into this as well. So I do have my worries about the post-apocalyptic setting, and okay, so they're going quite basic. You've got, again, the Shelterborn Vault Dwellers, you've got the Brotherhood of Steel, basically, you've got tribes, and you've got some religious people. Okay, basic bitch nonsense. And you could argue that you can't do too much different, but I argue you kind of could. So, on the one hand, there aren't exactly an overflowing quantity of grand strategy games set in a post-apocalyptic setting, but I will bring up one excellent exception, an example of just that. So, you may have seen me playing this game before, and I've been dying to play it again, and these days I'm gonna have to do that on stream if I'm gonna have the free fucking time for it. Anyways, this is Shadow Empire. Shadow Empire is a great game. Honestly, it's one of my favorite grand strategy games damn near ever. It has a tremendous amount of complexity, yet a lot of the complexity is actually handled very, very, very easily. It is one of those games that appears rather daunting and can be, as it does function on a little bit of monkey logic, but actually becomes incredibly comfortable to play once you get into it, as a lot of things can actually be more or less automated as you are running, an empire as its ruler rather than micromanaging every decision. And best part is, this is not set in America or any version of Earth whatsoever. This is post-apocalypse in space, where you take over as a tribal ruler of a colony world. Oh, well, not even potentially a tribal ruler. You can actually be a technologically advanced faction. Then emerge on this planet that may be covered in all manners of interesting xenos. Everything from small creatures that are a minor inconvenience at worst to the occasional herbivores that might annoy you by breaking up supply chains and stopping your trucks from moving as they please, to 18-meter tall armored flesh-eating pack-hunting elephants. Yes, that playthrough ended quick. And that's the thing. So one of the things I'm a little bit worried about when it comes to the post-apocalyptic world is they obviously want to have an idea of culture and events happening, right? And there's only so many cultures and events you can do in a post-apocalyptic world, especially as there doesn't appear to be any indication as of yet of anything of a particularly fantastical nature, meaning that this is just going to be humans and the occasional robots roaming around the wasteland, which is going to take a lot of the mystery out of it. If you're leaning this heavily on Fallout, I'm kind of already gonna know a lot of the tricks that you're gonna throw at me, and so the discovery and exploration process is probably going to be rather muted by this. Now, as they mentioned in the dev diary as well, this was apparently an idea from like 2012, and if this game had been released in 2012, I feel like most of my misgivings would have disappeared immediately, but now well, actually, the 2012 title makes a lot of sense because it feels like a game that's coming out at a bit of the wrong time, really. I'm getting this strange vibe that it's a game that doesn't necessarily quite fit into the space that it's emerged in, but again, that's why we're doing the Grinch check here. Rediscovery, we're not inventing, we're not discovering and scavenging a lost world. There should always be new things to explore, and your powerful discoveries can fundamentally alter the story of your playthrough. This is also about rediscovering the history and the lore of the world. We are rediscovering and scavenging a lost world. Wait, I was kind of hoping that it would be a space game, honestly, where you did actually rediscover a new world, and there were mysteries to find. Once you place this in North America, and you base it so heavily on Fallout, it just feels a lot like you're doing a Fallout game without access to the IP. Afterworld aimed to be the easiest grand strategy game to pick up and get immersed in without sacrificing complexity or depth. And again, don't get me wrong, if you can actually pull that off, I'll applaud you, but you never have before, Paradox. And then again, you've got a lot of experience in that now, so perhaps. We are trying to tying many mechanics to exploration and discovering so that they get progressively unlocked for a deeper and deeper game without overwhelming you during the first 10 minutes. And again, good in theory, but with many problems in reality. For example, if you start, and they mention this in the dev diary as well, if you tie technology, so they mention irrigation, to discovering a river, your map better have a lot of fucking rivers, as I'm presuming irrigation is going to be rather important. If you end up in a situation where there aren't any rivers nearby, are you just boned then? Or will there be some sort of independent way to access this technology? Perhaps trade for it? Who knows? So, Afterworld. I really want to hear what everybody has to say about this. As clearly, Paradox is excited. They even made a little graphic novel about it, which is cool. And this, I believe, are also their development. Yes, a Paradox development studio. I imagine that Paradox would want to make another big game to rely upon, as I did mention this earlier in a previous stream, but Paradox are kind of running out of pillars to stand upon. All of their actually active games are basically DLC making baby factories these times, rather than actually being a new thing, and they're developing too many sequels without really reinventing or creating anything new. This may very well be a good opportunity and attempt to do just that, creating a new IP. Whether or not it becomes a success, well, that depends, as yet again, I fully understand and sympathize with the whole, oh, but we want this to be a more easily accessible grand strategy game. I get it, okay? You want loads of people to play your game, and obviously grand strategy games are going to be inherently intimidating to the average gamer, who is going to look at, and honestly, if that was your goal to not be intimidating, I don't know if this is necessarily the way to go about it, as, from the average normie perspective, that already looks like a lot of fucking buttons and a lot of weird shit. Even as a veteran grand strategy gamer, however, it makes a lot more sense immediately. And in fact, I think it's a surprisingly good UI, honestly. And as I've mentioned previously on many occasions, the clue to creating a truly accessible grand strategy game is not to make it easier. It is not to lower the complexity, it is instead to produce a more convenient and communicative UI. That is key and cool, and Paradox does have a fair bit of practice in that, so we let us not cry wolf too early, but oh. Again, this is why we're doing the Grinch check. My conclusion is, it feels like a game a little bit out of time, like it's arriving a bit too late to necessarily be entirely topical, and it feels like it is somewhat lacking in inspiration, which, if you're going to make a game, particularly one based on exploring the world for technologies and uncovering what happened to it, that sense of mystery is very important, which is why games like Alpha Centauri, for example, who did this previously, did so very well, because they're in, well, space. And so rediscovering a brand new world is going to be filled with myths and monsters and creatures to find and figure out, whereas this looks too much like Fallout again. Also, I will say, there's a slightly weird artifacting here. If you keep a close eye on the tattoo there as we play, you can see like a weird kind of liney cutoff thing going through it, which is a bit strange. And the place too looks like oddly placed on her skin. I'm assuming they're trying to communicate that maybe it's an implant or something, but it looks like a graphical glitch more so than anything else. Anyways, what do you think? Please, chat, I'm genuinely interested, as this is Paradox's first new big, genuine, honest-to-God, proper new development since, what, Stellaris? Can't be. God, it can, couldn't it? It could, couldn't it? Oh, no, well, yeah, no, well, no, yeah, no. March of the Eagles, that didn't work out very well, Stars. Ah, yes, Imperator. No, never mind. Imperator! Yeah. It didn't work out very well. That did not work out very well at all, so whatever lessons you've learned from that, don't repeat them, and hopefully you'll be fine, as I certainly would like some more grand strategy games out there. And again, besides Shadow Empire, which is amazing, by the way, the post-apocalyptic survival genre is not exactly overpopulated, particularly not with grand strategy. Until next time, I have been Arch. Thank you very much for watching, and please tell me what you think down in the comment section below. Till then, till next time, more correctly, have a good day.